Good morning everyone and welcome for today's morning talk show. So today we will be talking about mass communication theories. But before that, I am Rosalie Espirito and my partner.
My name is Madeline Ilagatik,
And welcome for Masa Morning Talk Show. You're tuned into the Masa Morning Show, where we decode the media, deconstruct the message, and try to find the signal in all that noise. So, once again, good morning.
So in this segment, we will be talking about the theories under mass communication, the media ecologies, semiotics theory, cultural studies, uses and gratification, cultivation theory, and the agenda setting theory. So let's welcome first our guest, Miss Piet Altea Pabon.
Hi!
Good morning. Good morning. Mr. Jan Kirby Floronita.
Good morning.
Hello. Ano?
Thank you for having me.
And Mr. Joseph Cabal.
Hi guys.
Hello.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, I just want to ask you, how are you guys?
We're totally fine.
Thank you for having us here to share our topic.
So, since we're talking about the mass communication, why don't we talk first the first theory, which is the media ecology. So, since today's topic is very interesting because we got to ask questions, why do we act differently in digital spaces? So, I was thinking to ask my partner first. So partner, what do you think? Why do we act differently in digital spaces?
So today, partner, everyone knows how to use social media, right? Oh, in my case, even everyone knows how to use it, but didn't know how to be responsible. Nowadays, technology, social media is very rampant. So we are here to today's morning talk show to know how to be responsible in using social media. Am I right, partner?
Yes, I agree with that. And in Marshall McLuhan famously said that the medium is the message. So to better explain that, we have Miss Pabon in discussing the media ecology.
So thank you, Miss Madeline. McLuhan's point was that the way information is delivered, whether it's a TikTok or an AI chatbot, shapes our behavior more than the content itself. For Gen Z, these aren't just apps. They are environment.
Environment is a strong word, right?
Yeah.
You mean we actually live in our phones?
Yeah, in a sense, yes. McLuhan talked about a global village, and that's literally what Gen Z lives in. A meme in Manila can go viral in New York in just seconds. It creates a shared experience to the planet.
So precisely, but how does the ecology change how we think?
So think about attention spans. TikTok's short form medium has trained us to expect information in bursts. It even changes how stories are written. On platforms like Netflix or Disney's, the shows are now written for binging rather than weekly waiting.
So, the medium even dictates the plot of our favorite shows?
Exactly, it even alters reality. With AI and deepfakes, the medium forces us to constantly ask, is this authentic? It has redefined everything from political mobilization to dating.
About the semiotics theory, we have Mr. John Kirby Floronita to discuss that theory.
Thank you so much and hello, good morning everyone. I am John Kirby Florida And to discuss the semiotic theory, semiotic theory is the study of signs and how we create meaning from them. And why does this heart make you think of romance or a red light?
I guess we just grew up knowing it. No one has to explain heart emoji anymore.
Oh, that's precisely. And Ferdinand Saussure explained that every science has two parts. The first one is the signifier, and the second one is the signified. So the signifiers is the word or like the word or image, and the signified is also is the concept behind it.
So you mean that the signifier is the physical thing we say?
Yes, correct. And the heart symbols is the signifier, while the idea of love is the signified. So another scholar, Charles Sanders Peirce, added that there are three types of signs. The icons, which look like the object, like a photo or a photograph. And the second one is the indexes, logical connections like smoke, or it meaning there's a fire. And the third one is the symbols, learned through cultures like flags.
So that's interesting.
So how this apply to the media we consume daily?
So to answer that questions, advertisers are masters of this. So they use bright colors or to trigger the excitement, or dark colors to create mystery, right? So by understanding semiotics, we become critical users who analyze why a post make us feel a certain way instead of just accepting it.
So thank you, Mr. Florita, for sharing your knowledge about the semiotics theory. Speaking of symbols, and it said that symbols have power, then who actually control the power? So that will be answered by Mr. Joseph Habal in his theory, Cultural Studies.
Thank you, Miss Madeline. And in that question, communication has never been neutral. It's influenced by power, ideology, and social structure. Stuart Hall explained that media messages are encoded by producers and decoded by audiences.
Does that mean that we all see the same message differently?
Exactly. People don't just receive messages, they interpret them. You might accept the intended meaning, resist it, or negotiate somewhere in between.
So you mentioned hegemony research. That word's like a big concept for a morning show.
It's actually simple. Antonio Gramsci's ideas of hegemony is how dominant group maintain power by shaping culture, so their worldview seems like common sense.
So for our last question for you, that will be asked by my partner, Rosalie.
So the media tells us what is normal?
Yes, that's why we have to ask, whose stories is being told, whose voices are missing. Cultural studies empower us to value subculture and marginalized voices that challenge those dominant narratives through things like protest art or even TikTok trends.
Thank you so much for that insightful discussion. We'll be back in a minute after the break. Since we've already done about the first three theories in under mass communication, which are the media ecology, semiotics theory, and the cultural studies. Let's now proceed to the last three theories under the mass communication. But before that, let's welcome first our guests. So, Mr. India, Miss Ibaya, and Miss
Good morning,
Marquez.
ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
For having us.
So, since we've already done about the first three theories under the mass communication, then let's proceed. Let's proceed with the last remaining theories, which are the uses and gratification theory, the cultivation theory, and the agenda setting theory. But before that, let's first proceed to the uses and gratification. We have Mr. Intiga.
So, once again, good morning. So, thank you for having us here. I am more than ecstatic. I'm seeing you all with confidence and grace.
Thank you. Then my question for you is, since we negotiate media, then why do we choose the media we use in the first place? So, Mr. Intia, since we negotiate meaning, then why do we choose the media we use in the first place?
Once again, thank you so much, Madeline, for your question. So, this theory might sounds interesting, especially that this might flip the script. So, in our world, people think that media controls people. But in these theories, the people use media only to satisfy themselves.
Like when I check my phone in the morning.
Certainly, you're pointing out actually the four elements. So in this theory, we have the four elements. The first one is the information. So people use the media to seek news. For example, by utilizing the movies, the social media, and even by watching on TV shows. The second one is the entertainment. We people, we often watch various funny videos only to satisfy ourselves. For instance, by utilizing or scrolling on Reels, whether on Facebook, Instagram, or even the TikTok.
I definitely used it for the third one, the social interaction.
Oh, really? The third element of this series. So, in this element, the people use this medium or the media only to connect themselves to other people. For instance, we utilize the messenger for us to connect ourselves to our peers and family as an avenue for communications. And lastly, we have this personal identity. So we, as part of these generations, we often follow content or we often like posts as if it's who we are or that's what we believe in. For example, your habit or what you like is eating. So commonly, you often follow the content or the post related to mukbang, right?
So, we aren't passive sponges after all.
What do you mean by passive sponges? I mean, not at all. So people click, people like, and people follow something because it reflects who they are and what they believe in. So for examples, we people, when we're stressed, what we probably do is we often listen to music for us to relieve ourselves. And another example is that when we're confused about lessons, what we commonly do is to seek a tutorial on TikTok or even on YouTube for us to have solutions on that problem. Once again, the cornerstone of this theory is that the audience holds the power, and the media here only becomes more significant when they satisfy themselves on human-specific needs, right?
So, thank you, Mr. India, for sharing your knowledge about the uses and gratification. And
Actually, you're very much welcome.
now let's move to the next theory, which is the cultivation theory by Miss Ibaya. So, we always talk about our choices, but we've never talked about the effects of the heavy building. So, can you tell us more about the cultivation theory?
Of course, I am more than happy to share my knowledge. So your question, that brings us to George Bergner.
he argued on his study, or on his theory rather, that the more you spend hours on the screen, it eventually and quietly changes your perceptions of reality. And he called this cultivation theory.
I've heard you talk about meme world syndrome, right? So, can you tell us more about that?
I would love to. Worldling syndrome is just a belief that the world is much more scarier than it actually is. To the point that heavy viewers see so much violence on the screen, to the point that they develop social paranoia.
But isn't the violence on TV just a reflection of the real world?
In some cases, yes, but George Gardner and his theory would actually say no to that because through the message system analysis, he found out that the children's cartoons has much more death hours than the actual news. Can you imagine that?
Well, it's quite terrifying to me.
I agree.
So for the last question, Miss Elia, Rosalie will ask.
And who decides what gets shown?
Well, in that matter, it's the institutional process analysis. Owners often care more about profit, so they filter stories to make a more marketable one like crime and dramas because in that way, they get a higher ratings. Over time, it leads to mainstreaming, where everyone starts sharing the same distorted and fearful perspective.
I definitely agree with that.
So Miss Syra, speaking of what gets shown, how does the media decide what is important?
That is agenda setting. To simply put, the media doesn't tell you what to think, but it tells you what to think about it.
So, if the news leads with a story about climate change every day, the public starts to prioritize it.
Exactly, but it goes deeper with framing. This is how the media picks specific data to highlight. For example, a basketball win can be framed as an inspiring victory, or as a player being overworked. Same event, totally different meaning.
Then Miss Syra, who are the people making these choices?
We call them gatekeepers, editors, and producers who make the final call. But they are also influenced by external forces like PR teams and government press releases.
Does this still work in the age of social media algorithms?
Yes, just differently. Algorithms now act as the new gatekeepers, pushing certain trends to the top of your feed. Whether online or offline, the media agenda still move what people do, not just what they say.
Now we will call all the guests earlier to join us here. Yes, Mr. Florida.
Good morning once again, guys.
Hello, good morning.
You can sit here.
Hearing all those idea partner, those ideas are very useful. So like nowadays that technology or social media is very rampant. So now let's hear the key takeaways from our guest today.
So how about Miss Elia? Mr. Elia?
Why don't you start with Miss Ibaya?
So my main key takeaways would be media doesn't tell us what to do. I mean, as per the theory that I've explained, media doesn't tell us what to do, but it can certainly shape how we think normally, or it can shape how we view things as normal or common, like that.
Okay, so in my case, actually, we often view media to control us. But I've learned in these theories that we use it as avenue for us to satisfy ourselves in using the media.
And for my takeaways about cultural studies and power, cultural studies examines how everyday culture creates meaning and power, shaping what we see as normal while people constantly resist and break it.
How about you, Miss Florida?
So, my takeaways from Adonis Satin theory is show the meaning of play powerful role in shaping what the public thinks what is important.
So for my key takeaways to that through semiotics. So semiotics remind us that communication is more than just speaking. So meaning can come from symbols, actions, colors, and even silence.
And lastly, my key takeaway in media ecology. It simply means different media. It changes how we think. Like TV makes us feel fast. Social media makes things spread quickly, and books makes us think deeply.
So, that was a very great insights. Thank you very much. So in general, media is very powerful.
Yes.
Because it really shapes how we think, how we act, and the way we are.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, in my case, in general terms, it only shows that media is not just simple media, but it's really the reflection or the cornerstone of all of us. I mean, how we revolve, you know, as we revolve around this globe.
Yes, we agree.
Once again, this is Masa Morning Talk Show.
Bye!